Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. Now I thought we'll look at something a bit more complex and a bit of a larger scale. So I've gone for Kotare. This is the Spitfire Mark 1A, the Brian Lane edition. Now Kotare is a New Zealand company. I think it's a remnant of Wingnut Wings, but I'm not 100% sure. And this is one of their first kits, was the Spitfire. It's a Mark 1A. I think Kotare. I think it's a little bird, some sort of kingfisher bird, which you've got a little image with on the kit there. So this is a specific model of Brian Lane's Spitfire Mark 1A during the Battle of Britain. I think this is about September 1940. Obviously, the box is dominated by a picture of Brian Lane himself. You can obviously see. I think he was in his early 20s when that picture was taken. There's a series of quite famous pictures of the man. And obviously the strain and pressure on his face is quite telling there. He was an ace at the time, I believe, but unfortunately, like many aces, he didn't see the end of the Second World War, and I believe went missing in action, chasing a couple of FW190s over the North Sea. I think that's when he was last seen. So a sad end to well, I really haven't got the words for things like that, but it's quite poignant. So let's look at the kit. I haven't built one of their stuff before. I have already started it, by the way. Just to have a quick look at it. So we've got some excellent wing detail. So the wings are put together. All these are separate components in there, and it builds up quite nicely. Minimum cleanup on the trail and edge. I think that's going to be a really nice kit. The fuselage, which is quite interesting. It's quite not as refined, not the molding, I mean, but actually the look of the manufacture of the aircraft compared to the wing, which I think was the Spitfire's secret. So I've built a little bit of the doors have gone on there, a bit of plating on this fuselage side as well. But the important thing, or the main thing with this kit, is you actually get a resin figure of Brian Lane himself. It comes in, see if I can have a quick look at that, see if we can get a good look at that. So it comes in, the body's one part, the head and the two arms are separate. Now my kit came with the body and two sets of arms without the head, so it was a bit of an issue. So I contacted Kotare down in, I think they're down in Auckland, New Zealand there, emailed them, and someone called Richard got back to us, and within a couple of weeks I got a new head for the kit. So thank you very much, Richard, down there in Auckland, New Zealand. That was great service. I can't fault them whatsoever. But that figure is awesome. I'm not a great figure painter, but I'm certainly going to have a go at that. That looks really good, just as a bit of reverence to the man and his sacrifice. Now, Kotare instructions, like I say, they've got some sort of connection with Wingnut Wings. You're not going to be disappointed. I've already started building the kit. The colour instructions and the information throughout are stellar. This is what you want from a manufacturer. Absolutely perfect. You cannot complain about anything. The research looks like they've done is meticulous in these aircraft. Colour call-outs are all at the front as well, with your various mixtures and whatnot. Now, I'm usually a bit of a, if it looks right, I'll paint it that colour. I'll usually mix by eye, but for something like this, I'm going to try and be as accurate as possible. So I've already bought the Tamiya paints that I require, so I'm going to be using Tamiya paints for this. Transfer sheet. Again, it's from Cartograph in Italy, so they're going to be absolutely perfect, and the registration and the carrier film is minimum. They look absolutely superb. Like I say, I've already made an attempt to start the kit. I've done a bit of the cockpit, a bit of the pilot seat, which comes with moulded in seat belts, which I think for this scale we'll get away with. But that's where we are at the minute. I'll build a bit more of the cockpit. We'll get some primer and get some paint done, but I'm really looking forward to see how this one comes together. And like I say, a big thank you to Kotare for sorting that missing piece out for us. Excellent service. Let's hopefully I can do this kit justice. Okay, right, I'm getting back on with the Kotare Spitfire. It has been a few months since I've actually been on with this one, so there's a bit of a break between this video and the part you've just seen. So we're going to get in with the interior. It's not an overly complicated kit because it has no engine detail, has no gun bays, nothing like that. So it's fairly just like a curbside model. But all the good stuff's on the interior on this model, cockpit, etc, etc. So as per usual, I try and build up as much as possible before I get in with the paintwork. Now I'm looking forward to doing the instrument instrument panel there, because all those dials are separate transfers. So I'm going to prime these in a minute. So we've got the fuselage sides as well. I really want to get this cockpit built up and put together so I can get on with the build. We've got the cockpit sides, separate items as per most 1/32 scale Spitfires. We have the formers, but the holes, which should be like drilled out, aren't on the kit, which isn't that much of an issue. Kotare instructions say you can drill the holes out, but for me, I'm not going to do that. There's two reasons why. I'm going to put a wash over anyway, so it's going to darken them down. And secondly, and more importantly, I'm going to find it dull and boring and repetitive to do that, and I'm not going to enjoy it. So I'm not going to do it, because it's a hobby. It's meant to be fun. If it's tedious, don't do it. It's my kit, so we're going to crack on with that. So I'm going to get these primed. The main cockpit colour I'm going to paint is AK RAF Cockpit Interior Green, the grey green. And obviously the aluminium colour as well, so I'll find an aluminium colour in my stash somewhere. It might be AK. And then we'll get the detailed paint work done and the weathering done, and get the instrument panel done as well, because I really want to see what it looks like. But as you can see, the Kotare instructions are outstanding for colour call-outs. You can't wish for anything more. And there's the instrument panel, all the individual transfers, which are made by Cartograph. So let's get some primer on this, some paint on it, and then we'll get on with the weathering and the cockpit closed up and the wings put on, which I've already built up actually. So I've already done them, and they've gone together quite nicely with these big fillets as per the real thing. Right, let's move on. Let's get this done. Right, now I'm back on with the Spitfire. It has been a few months since the last video, which is obviously just like a couple of seconds ago for you lot. So I'm going to do the cockpit now. I'm going to build the interior up. I'm going to do it a slightly different way. On the instructions, it says basically build it as a tub and fit it into the plane. I'm going to build the sides up individually, and then hopefully it'll all come together and I wouldn't have arsed it up. So again, I've built as much as I can before I paint, which always creates problems for us, but it's how I like to work, you know, why make it easy? So basically I've loaded the airbrush up with Tamiya XF71 cockpit green, although it says Imperial Japanese Navy, but that's what the call out on the instructions is, but slightly darker. But I'm gonna get to that in a second to darken it down a bit. And I've thinned it about 50-50 with AK real colour thinners, compatibility thinners. And I'm just basically gonna flash the whole lot and then go back in, paint the aluminium, and then pick out all the individual details. In particular, the instrument panel, which has got every dial is a separate transfer. So I'll start with that. So basically a light coat. I'm going to keep coming back to it, just build up the colour. So it goes on, as always, Tamiya paint goes on absolutely lovely. So again, just keep building it up. So I'll do that, I'll get them all painted, then I'll mask off and put the aluminium on. Right, let's have a quick catch up on the Kotare Spitfire. I'll tell you where I'm up to on this blisteringly hot day in June. It's absolutely sweltering outside. I think we're hitting 30 degrees. It's not going well for England in the cricket. First day of the test, so rough idea when this was filmed. So I'll just quickly show you where I'm up to. I'll just show you this side of the interior. So I basically just painted the green, painted the aluminium, and picked out the other various different colours in it. Give it a wash, then a quick dry brush. That's basically all I've done to get to where I'm at. And I've put a little coat of gloss varnish on for the there's lots and lots of transfers to go on this kit. So like I say, I've been a bit slapdash putting this together. There's a lot more work to do on it, particularly on the belt and around the seat. Other details to pick out, but it's a fabulous kit. But the thing to resist donuts, I think, is in the interior and the transfers. Now you can't really see that much inside the Spitfire, even on 1/32 scale. So I'll get on with the transfers. We'll make up the dashboard, the instrument panel, and all the other various markings and things around the cockpit, because there's more work to do and more detail to pick out. But otherwise, yeah, don't do what I've done. Don't put the side of the tubs onto the cockpit side, onto the fuselage side. Yeah, I'm going to have some certain alignment issues, I'm sure, which might cause us a bit of an issue trying to get all the formers in. But never mind, that's my own fault. So just a quick word of warning, don't do that. Right, so we'll get on with the transfers. They're made by Cartograph, I think, so they should flatten down quite nicely. So we'll start with the instrument panel and we'll go from there. Then we'll try and get the fuselage together and then really get on with the build, because there's not a high build count on this model. Just basically a curbside kit, but a lot of detail on the interior. Now let's see where we're at. Sorry, the desk is a right mess at the minute, so I do need a bit of tidying up. So I've got the transfers on as they said in the instructions. So we get some light on that. And let's see if you can see, the instrument panel looks really good. A little gloss varnish on the dials there to make them look like glass. The belts are moulded on. They're okay, but a careful painting and you can get that sort of effect. I've gone with the armour as black, as per the instructions recommend. There's a bit more I need to do, like some attachments for the belts to the bit of the formers there. But otherwise, that's that component done. Now, the instructions say you can put sort of like control rods or wiring, but basically you can't see it from like the controls of the rudders. So I'm not going to bother because you can't see it. There's one of the cockpit sides. Again, really nice with the transfers. Lots of, I mean, they take about a day and a half to put on. There's more than you think. The other side with the oxygen bottle, or the compressed air. Now, I've also gone back in. Now, if I really should demonstrate this rather than talking about it. Someone's complaining I talk too much and don't show enough. I'm sure I'll work out how to do it properly one day. But see this little control there, I've gone over it again with a silver paint, just to give a slight different in contrast. And you can do that with the highlights. Once you've done your wash, which I've done a little dry brush, just go over with the original colour over the highlights, just to make them pop a little bit more, like I've done on the control column, if you can see that. It's really hard to see. I mean, basically, you don't see much once this cockpit's put back together, even in 1/32 scale. However, I do have, oh my god, I've got a criticism here, and I can't work out what the issue is, so I'll just show you the instructions. Well, should have been prepared. Where were we? So if we look at the sidewall, right here, the sidewall, we've got this component here, and the transfer's number 46. So if we look at the model, it goes in here, where that slot is. So that part, as you can see, fits in there. I can't find that part. It's not. There's no reference to it in the instructions at all. I've gone through it front to back. That part, I can't see it on the sprue. I can't see it in the instructions. That's the only reference you've got. None of this wiring's there. I don't know what the hell that is, but it's just not there in the instructions. So Kotare, you need to kind of sort that out, unless I mean absolutely thick, which is, it's a possibility. I can't see it. So whatever goes there is not going to go there. And to be honest, once everything's in and buttoned up with the canopy and the canopy slid back, you're not going to be able to see in there. So I'm now going to try and bring it together. I can get it to fit together quite well. Like I say, I've done this back to front. I don't recommend you do it this way, but I can get a good fit. So I'm going to get that glued in there, a nice tight fit, and then we're going to try and match up the other side of the fuselage, which I think I will get in. I have tried it, have dry fitted it, and I can get it to click together. But then I think I've got another issue. When I try and fit the fuselage to the wing assembly, I can get it to click in really nicely on this wing root side, but it sticks up a bit on that side. But if I click it in that side, it sticks up on that side. So I'm not quite sure what's going on there. I can't see what's catching, if anything. But for now, I need to bring the fuselage together. So I need to get a nice snug fit, and then sandwich it together with that and get a nice snug fit, and then try and mate it up to the wings, which I'll show you the issue I'm having. I'm sure it's probably me, not Kotare, because this is a very, very nice kit. So let's get the fuselage put together, and then again we'll see what we can't see inside, because it really is pretty obscured. But it's a very, very nice cockpit. That's 10 out of 10 from me for that design, apart from whatever that is. I'll knock a mark off for that. Okay, let's get it together. With a bit of wiggling, I've got the cockpit together, the fuselage together, and we've got quite a nice fit. Oh God Almighty, quite a nice fit. Now, I put the I nearly said bonnet there, the engine cover on, and the fuel tank, which it looks like a cover that slots over it, but that's going to represent the fuel tank. The spinner's loose, so that's just like, you can't even see it. But you just don't glue that down if you want the spinner to turn or the prop to turn. Now, just a quick heads up. First thing I would do if I was putting this together, I'd put that on first, then the top cover, the engine cover, and then I'd put the side panels on. Because there's a bit of play backwards and forwards in this panel, as you can see. I did this first, and as you can see, I've got a little bit of a step inside there. There's not a lot I can do with that. So that was already set before I put these on. So try and put them on as 4 and you get a bit of movement. It's not a deal breaker. But if I make a mistake, I'll show you, just so you don't. So just be mindful of this front end when you build this this aircraft. You know, just leave them loose. Now, a really good thing about this is the top spine cover just clips on. That's going to be a really good fit, and that eliminates any seam line down there because you do have a line of rivets. And the next thing, so I'll get that on. Now the next thing, I'll show you the issue I'm having here. Again, it might be me, it might be, I don't think it's the kit, it's a really good kit. So it tells you to slot it in like that and then push it forward. And you see, so I can get it to clip in quite nicely there on the wing root. But on that side, it stands up a little bit. As you can see, I clatter the wing off the phone. But then when I clip it in this side, trust me, it does. Oh dear me. Right, I can't get that to sit down now. So, right, I'm going to mess about with this for a bit because it should slot in really nicely. And I'll tell you how I got round it because at the minute I'm having a bit of bother. Right, I'll come back to that, but I'll get the spine on. Be wary of that when you do it. But otherwise, so far so good. And I think any issues with this kit so far is of my own doing. Okay, right, I've worked out how to get the fuselage and wings together. So what I've done, whether you need to do this on your kit, I don't know, but I've had to do it on mine. I've just taken the tabs off there, sanded that back a bit, sanded the bottom bit just to take a bit of the edge off the bottom because I think that was causing an issue. Now what we can do here, try to get it clipped in at the back first. I can slide it back. Yep. Okay, so I've got a nice fit there. So what I need to do is hold it. And then you see it's a bad fit there. If you flex the wings a bit, flex them apart. Oh God, no, I can't do it. I can't get them to clip in. I promise you, I've just done it. There we go, there we go, there we go, there we go. And we'll slide the wing back. So there we go. See if you can see, oh God, hang on. See if you can see there. So we've got a nice clean fit there between the wing root and the fuselage, and the same there. But I'll need to clamp it together. Let's just see if I take my fingers off, it pops apart a bit. But if I can clamp it together, just run some thin cement down there. That's just going to melt together and you're not going to notice it. A little bit of a chew on. It could have been me, it could be the kit, but I'm willing to give it the benefit of the doubt. So I'll get a couple of clamps out and we'll get that stuck together. I've already got the tail plane on, that just flew together. And the top spine is on perfectly. So we'll get the wings on. There's a seam to clean up there, just a teeny one. Small bits and bobs to get on. Then we'll get the model primed, and then we can get some paint on it and really start to bring this model together. A couple of possible pitfalls on this model. Now you see there's a top light supposed to go on the dorsal plane there, which again I forgot to put in. You have no idea how many times I do this when I'm building models. There it is up there. And the seat's got quite a sort of bit there which glues underneath, which I haven't managed to get in, so I'm going to have to do some carving and some additional work to get it fit in because I don't want to pop it in then just falls inside. So I've got a plan for that, but that'll be much later in the build. We have a little bit of a gap around the oil cooler intake there and the wing root there to the underbelly plate there. It's not too much of an issue, can soon sort that out. Now there's a few things about the undercarriage. Now I can show you this on the instructions. It says to try and shave off those bits on the undercarriage. So I'll show you what I've done. I'll try and demonstrate. Now one side I've already got the undercarriage door on, so it's not going to be that easy to see, so bear with us. So I'll put the two legs together. You can kind of see on the right hand side one where it's much thicker at the top because I have trimmed it down. Now this one does fit a lot better, and also because it really is a good positive fit, I've bent the leg that way apart a bit because it was far too much of a 90-degree bend, even less than a 90-degree bend. So it's given the Spitfire like a knock-kneed effect, rather than, if you look on the instructions, they're supposed to be out slightly. But when I've test fitted them, they're too far in and it just doesn't look right. To my eye, it doesn't look right. So to fit these in, there's a slot right inside there. It is a very positive fit, but you do have to cut that bit off. And it's a very positive fit, very secure. And you can see I've got the slight outward tilt that I'm looking for as per the instructions. So that's what you got to do. The undercarriage is a little bit fiddly, but it can be done. The only issue I've got with this kit, it's probably the tolerances are just a little bit tight. But if you were aware of that, you'll avoid the pitfalls that I've come across at the minute. And obviously there's no excuse for stupidity of me forgetting to put that light in, so that's not the manufacturer's fault. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to get the undercarriage on, because I like to build as much as the aircraft I can before I go on with painting. So I'll do the other side, get it sitting level so it looks right. And we really are not far off from doing the getting a coat of primer on it and getting some top coat on it, which I'm looking forward to really getting into this painting. Now, time to paint the model. I think it looks really, really good. It's gone together quite nicely. It's a superb shape. I think they've really captured that, and I'm really pleased with the way it looks. It's nice and smooth. Got the primer on, giving it a little rub down just to flatten it off a bit. So I'm quite pleased how that's gone together. Now we have an interesting dilemma. So on the instructions, it says to paint the model, we're going to do the brown first. So the brown is either I or J. So we'll go to the instructions. I says, if we can see that, I says it's dark earth matte, which is Tamiya XF52 and 90, which is these two here. Get some light on it, which says 50-50 mix. Or the next one, which is J, which is XF49 and XF92, which is these two, which again is a 50-50 mix. So that one's going to be much paler than this one. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to use that as a base coat. So I'm going to put mainly that on with a little bit of that in, just to put the base coat on. And then I'm going to go with these two for the top coat, 50-50 mix of them. I like the thought of like a slightly paler brown. Again, we've got an option for the green as well, but I'll get the brown on first because I want to do a little bit of pre-shade, not a lot. I don't want to go over the top of this because it's a big model. So we'll get the darker brown on, and then we'll get a dust coat. Well, more of a dust coat, the top coat of these two, 50-50 mix, and we'll see what they look like. I haven't masked the canopy up yet, so I'm probably going to have to do that at a later date. I'll do that last probably. But basically, you really should paint the canopy at the same time you do the model. But you know, it's your model. Do how you build it how you want. But I'm gonna get on with that dark coat first. Then we'll start with the top coat of the lighter brown. So I've gone with like a 75-25% mix of that darker paint. Oh god, let's put the lid on, otherwise it's going to fly everywhere. 2 seconds. And I've thinned it down with AK Real Colour high capacity thinners, which is really good. Although I'm starting to run out of that, so I need some more of that. It's quite low odor as well, which is nice, especially if you're spraying in the house. And now I've got loads on my hand. What a start! Right, okay, let's see how this airbrush is. So I've thinned it down quite a bit, probably 50-50 mix, because I don't want to put too heavy a coat on it. That's basically all I want to do, just get a nice wet coat on over the whole of the model. Then I'll go on with a lighter brown, and then I'll show you how we're going to mask off the green, because I'm going to use the blue tack sausage method. Okay, so there we go, that's the brown on. Again, it doesn't have to be that specific or that deeper coverage, just basically get it on. See, it's a bit patchy in places, but that's okay, because the top brown's going to go on in a minute once this dries off. But once it's dried, I'm just going to give it a little wipe with a lint-free cloth to try and get a bit of the texture down. You don't want it to be too rough and too sandpapery. This is actually quite smooth because I've already prepared the surface. That's what you want to do. Keep the surface as smooth as possible, and it also helps when you put the transfers on. So that's that. Got that brown on. I've painted the spinner brown. There is method in the madness there, so we'll come back to that. The prop I have painted, just brush painted black with what did I use for that? Just Game Colour, just Workshop Game Colour black from Vallejo. Thin down with paint, thin down with water, a couple of thin coats, and you get some decent coverage. So I'm going to mask off the ends for the yellow tips, and I'll paint the spinner as well. I did buy some paint at the weekend and I can't find it. It's on my desk. There it is. My desk's a bit of a mess at the minute. So I've just gone for the Humbrol Matte 24. That'll do the job, no problem. Yellow is difficult to spray, but this Humbrol stuff's got decent coverage. And I think it'll be okay. Okay, now we'll come back to the spinner and propeller, which I've got painted, and it's over there. It's drying for the moment. Now we're going to get on with the main event, which is the earth colour on the Spitfire. So I've gone for these two colours, which the instructions suggest. XF90, no, yeah, it is them two. XF92 and XF49, 50-50 mix, which we have here, with a 50 mix of AK real colour. So that thins Tamiya paints down really nicely. You can thin Tamiya paints down with water, but I always like a little bit of solvent. So the idea now is to get a much better coverage and go panel by panel. So we'll just start on the wingtip here, if we can see that. So I really want to try and obliterate as much of the underneath brown as possible, and just try and keep a slight discoloration around rivet joints and other bits like that. It's like that wingtip there. Let's get the light across here, that looks better. Like that wingtip there, so I don't know if you pick that up. Get a much better coverage. So I'm going to do the whole of the Spitfire like that, and we'll see what it's like when I'm done. And then we're going to do the green and really get some progress on this Spitfire. There we go, that's the final colour. I probably will be going in a few more times with the airbrush as the model gets built. Sorry, the colour looks really weird under this light, I don't know why. It's getting slightly dark outside. But that's the sort of look I'm going for. So it looks more patchy on the phone than it does in real life. It really is bizarre. But that's the sort of look I'm going for. And then we can, I can't believe how patchy that looks. It does not look that patchy when I'm looking at it in real life. But anyway, so I'm going to let that dry. Then we'll do the green. And then we'll get the I'm not quite sure what colour to paint underneath, because there is a choice of two colours. I'll get to that once I get the green on. But I'm going to use the like a blue tack method. You roll little sausages, and because I want a slight fine feathered edge on this camouflage pattern, on the disruptive pattern. There's the propeller and spinner for now. Looks quite neat and tidy. Again, looks really weird under this light. It's going to have a lot of weathering as well, but I'm not going to go over the top and make it look totally battered. But that's where we are at the minute. Next is the green. Right, as you can see, I've now moved on to doing the camouflage, and like I said, I'm using the blue tack sausage method. So you can see around the nose cone, I've already done that, and around the wing. Basically using the paint instructions as a guide. One slight criticism, they're not that clear. I really would have liked these to be like on a full A4 or life size, or sorry, not life size, scale size to the model. So it would have given us a much more accurate layout of the camouflage. I mean, I can look online and probably get it. But this is what I'm doing now with the blue tack. So you kind of lay the sort of sausages on, and you can sort of meld it to the shape, or sculpt it to the shape you want. And the harder you press it down, the more tighter the airbrush line you're going to get. So you want to try and keep it consistent. And then when you airbrush, just so airbrush as flat as you can to a 90 degrees to the blue tack as best you can, and you'll get a nice fine feathered edge. I mean, you can go on and do it freestyle or freehand, but I really want to try and get this as accurate as possible. So that's what I'm going to do. I did have a little bit of blue tack rolled out to show you. So basically just a little sausage of blue tack like that, or white tack, or whatever you call it these days. So if I just look, see at this wing tip here, so it's like quite a wiggly sort of shape. So I'm masking up the brown. So it kind of goes from the navigation light there down to the corner of the aileron, and then you just sort of like pull it and push it into shape how you want it, and you can sort of like get some, I use a bit of these and just sort of like shape it how I want it, and then I'll put some blue tape on it, or some masking tape, just to fill the gaps in. Okay, that's how we do it. It takes a bit of time, a bit of practice, but I think you get a good effect. Okay, we've got the model all masked up, and we're going to paint it now. Now the instructions say either use Tamiya 81 or 89. The 81's slightly darker than the 89, so I'm going to do the same as what I did with the brown. Put the darker one on first, and just then lightly dust on with the slightly lighter colour. I'll quickly show you how to do this, because I think my battery's about to die on my phone. So basically, look at the tail there. So basically just giving it a nice gentle pass over at a 90-degree angle, and we should really get a nice, very, very light feathered edge. Basically all you want to do. So I'm going to continue to do that, then I'll go on with the lighter green, and then we'll take it all off and see what it looks like. Fingers crossed it looks all right. Voila, that's the effect we get. So we get a nice tight sort of pattern, which is what I'm looking for. We have a couple of little errors. I think this is a bit narrow, but the big roundel is going to cover that anyway. Otherwise, I think we have quite a nice look. Obviously, we've got a different type of top engine cowl. That's the B version, as opposed to the A version. And I think we've got a nice looking camouflage pattern there. So it's quite a simple technique. It's a little bit time consuming, but I think we'll get a nice effect there. So now we need to get on and paint the underneath. Again, the instructions, because these were in the field modifications, they say it's either a choice of sort of the duck egg sky colour, which is that, or a mix of that 10:1. So very, very, very pale blue. I think purely from aesthetics, to go with that camouflage pattern, I'm going to go with the bluish whitey colour. So a 10:1 mix with that. So I'll mask the bottom up, get that painted. Again, do a little bit of pre-shading, because it was apparently painted by hand, just like slapped on. And you still have your white and your black ID markings inside the wheel wells, which I'll mask up and do as well. But for now, I think that looks quite neat. Quite simple, straightforward. So we'll get the underside painted. Oh, I've unmasked the cockpit as well, so it looks quite nice there. I'm quite pleased with that so far. Now, as you can see, I've done the blue underneath. I masked it and just painted it as per the mix ratio in the instructions. Now, it was a little bit too blue for my liking, so I've lightened it up with a bit of white and gone over it again, and I'm quite happy with that actually. I think it's about right, although no one knows because it was a mix in the field. Now, I've given the coat just a brush coat of gloss varnish with that, which is really, really good. Just basically to seal it in. If you do not airbrush, and you can get a build up of dust and bits and bobs and like that, so a bit of a gloss coat will seal it in. Now, because I really want to try the transfers, I want to see what they're like, because we've got quite a bit of raised detail, as you can see, like on the fuselage side. But I've picked up a couple of faults. My fault, I should say, not a kit fault. I'll try and get a good light on that. So I'm not particularly happy with that seam there. And I don't know if you can see there, it's quite difficult to see. Got a little step on the swing joint. Now, I thought they were fine when I built it, but obviously, if you look back on the video, you need to like take more of the bottom of the cockpit off to get a much better fit than that. It's more than acceptable. I'm quite happy with it. I'm not going to like do anything about it, or I'm not going to do much about that either, because once it gets a bit of weather and a coat of varnish on, you're not going to see it. But I just want to like point out, like, no kit's ever perfect. You're never ever going to get a perfect kit. You've got to draw the line where you find enjoyment becomes a chore. For me to try and rectify that is going to become a chore, and it's minor, so I'm going to live with it. If I started messing on with that, it's going to affect the enjoyment of the kit. So don't worry if you don't get everything 100% right. It's never going to go right. If you ever build a perfect kit, stop building models, because you're never going to replicate that thing again. So basically, next thing, I'm just going to give it another coat of gloss varnish just where the transfers go, and I want to get it quite glossy, because I really want to, I'm desperate to get these on to see what it looks like with the transfers on. But that's all I'm going to do now. I'm just going to put a couple of coats on, and then I think I'll come back to it tomorrow, let it dry overnight. Now, I have quickly masked underneath and painted the wheel wells black and white. As per the original paint scheme of these aircraft, they were like black and white on one side with aluminium rear fuselage. It's for basically identification purposes. Obviously found it was too identifiable during the start of the war, so they did this paint scheme on the bottom of them, blanked them out, but obviously the remnants were left in the undercarriage. Now, I haven't quite finished that, but I really want to get on with these transfers. So I'm going to start off by putting the big roundel on, which, as you can see down here, I've already got some water on it. I've already got a nice decent gloss coat on there. So I just want to see how these work. And then if they're okay, I'll put the rest on and we'll do the finished detailed paint work. And then we'll go on from there. But this is taking a while to come off the back, and so I'll wait for it to come loose, and we'll continue the video. Right, the transfer's now starting to move, so I've given it a quick coat of microset on the model itself just to try and help this move this transfer around because it's very big. Quick more water. Right, we'll try and get it on and lined up how I want it. Sliding off the backing paper quite nicely. Don't want that to go AWOL. The walkway. That's a big transfer, mind. That is going to take. Right, that's gone on okay. Let's try and get it lined up how I want it. So far so good. So just above that panel line, I think it needs to go more to the left. And shouldn't really use your fingers, but that's all I've got at the minute. It's such a big transfer. I'd usually use a knife or something. Let's pull that straight. That looks pretty much where I want it. So I'm going to let that dry a bit, and as it dries, I'm just going to go basically just kind of press it down with the paintbrush. I'm not going to put any solutions on it yet. I'm going to see what it looks like. Little fine tune there, pull it down there, and right, we'll let that dry and we'll come back. So the transfer has dried overnight, and I think, let's put the light there, I think we're quite happy with that. That's gone down very nicely. No issues whatsoever. I might score around the pan lines with just a scalpel and put a little bit of microset down there just to really secure it in there, but that's pretty good. So I'm going to crack on and do the rest of the transfers, do some touch-in paintwork, such as like the insulator there and the tyres and the exhaust, and I'll do the bit of aluminium bit in there. So I'll do a bit more basic paint, and then we'll come back and do a little bit weathering, and then we're going to move on to the main subject, which is obviously the figure. So I really want to try and do that justice. Okay, let's move on. Let's have a quick update and see where we are at. Now, I've got the transfers on. As you can see, it's quite a lot of raised detail to get the transfer to settle down, so it took many times using this stuff here. If I can grab that. Deco products, a very strong setting solution, so it's had many coats of that, but especially over the raised areas where it hasn't settled. Basically just gone with a scalpel, just pricked the transfer and it reapplied it again, and then again, and then again, and then again, and it kind of settles down eventually, and you get a nice conformation in the panel lines, I should say, trench lines. Good God, it's not matchbox. Again on that side, so they're all settled down nicely. They've got a really nice painted on look. Very happy with the way they've come out. You can see how it's settled inside there. Obviously it's got a coat of gloss on there for to help it here. What I've then gone and done, oh God, I should have got these out first. Grab them. I've used these mainly for the wash, Tamiya panel line, which is very good, and just with a bit of white spirit and a bit of paintbrush. I haven't used the brush that comes with it. I've used my own paintbrush with a bit of white spirit and just moved it around just to get it to sit nicely in the panel lines, not to overdo it. I really don't want to over weather this model. I'm pretty happy the way it is already. Underneath again, some really nice sort of contrast and panel lines being picked out, dirty grubby hand marks, things like that, fingerprints. The only thing I haven't got yet is the exhaust streaks. So I'm going to airbrush a bit of black around there, very minimal. Again on the gun ports for the 303s, a little bit, possibly a little bit streaked down here, nothing over the top because I'm quite happy the way it is. Might airbrush a bit of dust and dirt around the wheels and tyres because it would have been operating off a grass airfield most of its life. And again, a little bit up the back, nothing over the top. And I'm probably going to live with that. Maybe a couple of scratches, a bit of this, and a bit of scratch work and things like that around the model, but nothing over the top, nothing too heavy. Then I'm going to seal it with a coat of not matte. It's going to have a slight sheen to it, not a total matte colour. I don't want to kill this too much, so I'm going to have a slight sheen. Just a quick word of advice when I found doing the transfers, the UV, if you've got the door open, it comes with a cutout in it. Well, I used them and they look like they sat way too low, which is compared to the original image of the aircraft. They were sitting way too low. So I've used the original QV and just basically cut it out once it's dry, and it sits at a much better height. I mean, you don't really see it now, the door's in the way, but just to be aware of that. Otherwise, everything's gone on perfectly fine. I'm quite happy the way it is. I'm going to do, like I say, the propeller's not finished either, but I'm going to do a bit of exhaust streaking, a bit of machine gun streaking around the gun ports and the ejector ports, maybe inside the radiator, but not a lot. I want to keep it reasonably fresh. Coat of varnish on it. Then I've got like the lights to pick out and things and bits and bobs like that, the aerials to put on. Then that light that I've missed, that I've missed to put on the spine. Just never ever forget that, because that is going to be an absolute pain in the backside, and it's going to be a bit of a make or break thing as well. So we're going to get on with that. And stop waffling, Neil, stop waffling. So here we are. I've given the model a coat of varnish. It's basically a matte varnish with a drop of gloss in it, just to give it a slight sheen, nothing too much. Like I say, I want to keep this in pretty decent, you know, good nick, not overly weathered, not overly battered. Underneath looks okay, undercarriage sorted. I might give them a little bit more dirt on, but nothing too much. Otherwise, I'm quite happy the way it is. Now we've got this navigation light to put in. Now I've thought of a cunning plan. So I've packed the hole with blue tack. You can see there, it's like blue tack. There's a little shelf there, so it's sitting on that. I've cut the lens down, basically, and that should hopefully just slot in and sit on the blue tack. So I'm going to try and do that now. I'll do it off camera in case the thing pings off and I start swearing. But I've just basically got that to do. The canopy's painted, but I want to weather that and put that on as well and get it the same sheen as that. The propeller and spinners are done. Then basically we're going to move on to the figure itself of Brian Lane. I ain't a figure painter, so we're going to see how that turns out. I'm going to do my best, but I'm not that optimistic. Now, as you can see, the model's pretty much complete, apart from you eagle-eyed viewers out there will notice the exhausts are missing. Now, I'll tell you why in a minute. Actually, I'll tell you why now. These are the kit issued parts. They have been primed and cleaned up a little bit. Oh dear me, so get some light on them. I don't know if you can see them very well. Well, but trust me, they are the weakest part of the kit by a country mile. They've got no openings for the exhaust ports, horrible seam line along them. This is them actually glued together and primed, but I'm afraid they're very, very poor from Kotare. I do know, I think they do 3D printed versions, but Edward have come to the rescue, so I've just ordered these on Sunday. It's now Wednesday, they've just arrived. So we'll have a quick look at these. Then I can get this model fixed and finished, and I can get on with the figure. I mean, you know, Edward Packaging's really nice. It's a very professional company. Just sort your transfers out, sunshine. But apart from that, these are the 3D printed exhausts. Let's have a quick look at them. Snap them off. Right. Okay, they've got the weld seam along it. They've got the open ends there. These are 100% improvement over the kit ones. So I'm going to prime them, paint them. It's basically just going to be a Citadel lead belcher, a couple of washes, a little bit of dry brushing on it. It's a strange material these were made out of. They don't really rust, but I'm going to give some heat staining on them. So basically going to get them together and put them on the aircraft, then they're done. Next thing, then I'm going to move on to the figure itself. Now, I am not a figure painter, so I'm going to do my best with this, just to show a little bit of respect, try and get the best finish I can. It may not be perfect, but I'm going to do some simple techniques on that. I probably won't show you because there's some much better figure painters on the internet than me, as you'll see shortly. But I just picked this up as well. This is his book that he wrote during the Battle of Britain. These are his memoirs. He actually wrote them under a pseudonym and changed all the names of everyone he was flying with. But later on, someone found his book and identified him as who wrote it, and then rearranged it so it's all correct, historically correct now. So that's going to go on holiday with me, and I'm going to read that. So hopefully she will learn something more about Brian Lane. But otherwise we'll crack on with the transfers, and then we'll do the figure. But I'll probably come back and just show how I've painted them, and we'll go from there. Right, here we go. That's the end. I have finished this model. We'll have a quick look at it. Just double check the exhausts on there to make sure you're happy with them. Move the light there a bit. Over the moon with them. They're very, very nice. They are a must. You really must have replacement exhaust for this kit. Otherwise, the ones that are supplied as standard really are a very weak point of the kit. I have to say, the weakest point of the kit, which is quite a surprise, because overall, right, so the complete package from Kotare, including the fantastic instructions, although there was a couple of issues I found in there with them. There's a couple of, I'm not going to nitpick because I will be, but they are really the gold standard at the minute for instructions. They're really well above anyone else's instructions. I mean, Airfixes are pretty good at the minute, but Kotare, I think, is the gold standard. The kit is a great subject, and particularly picking a specific subject like Brian Lane. So I've learned a lot more about Brian Lane, and I bought the book because I'm going to read that on holiday, and I think it's indicative of everyone really should understand the sacrifice these, obviously back then, very young men made for us for today. So just a bit of a, just to think about things like that. So that's why I've really tried to make this kit as best I possibly can, just for my teeny tiny tribute to these men. The kit is excellent. It's really nice. It goes together well. I think you'll agree. It's quite a nice finish I've got on there. The fit is not 100% perfect all round. Tolerances are very tight, so I'd always recommend dry fitting and check again, because I think the tolerances are just a little bit too tight. I even had a bit of an issue with the canopy, but that's on and no problem. Transfers are a bit of a pain to go down because there's a lot of raised detail, but there's nothing that a reasonably experienced modeler could rectify. And I would recommend this for an experienced modeler. It's not really a beginner kit. I'll just move the figure there because he's literally just had a blast of matte varnish about 2 minutes ago. Is it the best 132nd Spitfire kit out there? Well, I've only ever built 3. I built the Matchbox Mark 22, which was a dog of a kit. That must be the worst Matchbox kit ever made. That is horrible. I've built the Revell Mark 9 132nd scale, which was a re-release of their Mark 1 and Mark 5. I think they did some other bits in it. It was okay. It was only about 25 quid. It's okay. It went together all right, but it's nowhere near as good as this. But then again, this was 70 odd quid from Telford Model Show. The nice thing, obviously, is the figure. Now, I'm not a figure painter, and you'll probably see by this is the best I can do. He looks all right from a couple of feet away. Let's move the light across again. Again, the colours are looking a bit washed out. They're a bit bright for the yellow. But that's the best I can do with the Brian Lane figure. I really am not a figure painter. He's got his little cigarette there, if you can see. But I'm going to live with that. It's a lovely addition. The sculptor's done a fantastic job with that, and it really is a nice addition with the kit. I mean, if you've got the skill, this is what you can do. I mean, this is flagging to me that my eyesight's nowhere near as good as it used to be, because little details on these figures I can't even see on the resin one that came with the kit. I mean, they're obviously there, but my eyes obviously need testing, and I probably need some magnification for the future. But otherwise, it's a great kit, a fantastic subject, and I hope you agree it's a very nice curbside model of the Mark 1 Spitfire. A very important period in world history, not just in European history. Like I say, no issues. Basically, apart from the cockpit, don't build it the way I build it the way instructions say, and just test fit the bottom wings to the fuselage. And I would recommend clearing the bottom of that cockpit module as much as you can to get a neater fit. But otherwise, a great kit. Well done, Kotare. I'm looking forward to their Messerschmitt. They've done a K version, I think it is. It looks quite good. The thing with the Messerschmitt, the 109, it's one of my least favourite Second World War fighters. It really is right down the bottom. Doesn't grab me at all. It looks like not much flair in the design. It looks quite a dull plain. But the K version, I think's a bit more spiced up, I think. So I might go with that one and do a lot more weathering on that, rather than I've kept this one quite simple and quite plain. But otherwise, I'll put some pictures up at the end. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it. Any questions, give us a shout in the comments, and I'll try and get back to you and answer them. But again, thanks for watching.